Hi, this is Miss Warren with my weekly math video. And parents, this week the video is for you. The reason changing the format a little bit is because the students are going to be starting a unit on counting coins. And I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. I think it's the hardest thing we teach all year. That's just the way it is. If this were regular school, we would be doing this unit for anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. And there's a reason it's at the end of the year, because again, it's hard. That's just the way it is. If your child does not have this skill mastered by the end of this time, please, please, please keep practicing these skills as needed, maybe even all the way into summer. In addition to the resources that we provide here with the at-home learning document is games on Education Galaxy, as well as ABCYA. Also, you can use real life coins in everyday situations, maybe things like assigning a coin value to chores, or even just work assignments. Like for example, the social studies may be worth a nickel and something else is worth a dime, and then at the end of the day, count to see how much your child has earned. Repetition is going to be key here. Realistically, this is not a skill that's going to be mastered in a week. It's going to be one of those things where they're just going to need lots of exposure and lots of practice. So, just in case I freaked you out too much, here's some things that hopefully will help you help your child. So your teacher will have sent you a document that's outlining, kind of think of it as like the prerequisite skills. What do they need to know in order to be successful, as well as once they've met all the requirements, how can you take this even further? Also, I thought I would just kind of walk you through some things in this video. So the first step is that your child has got to be an expert at skip counting, which makes sense, right? You can't count nickels if you can't count by fives. This is just something that they have got to have down pat. So every day be practicing counting by tens, fives, and then of course regular ones, counting to 100. Don't just do it once. Do it all the time, because like I said, they can't move on until they are a skip counting expert. So once they've got that checked, what do they need to be able to learn in order to meet first grade standards? So there's 3 things. They need to be able to identify, that means name, a quarter, dime, penny, nickel, and also tell the value. So given a, you could give them a quarter and they right away need to be able to say quarter, 25 cents. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that they need to be able to count a collection of coins, but only pennies, nickels, dimes. They do not have to count a group of coins if there's a quarter in the mix. Now, if your child's ready, by all means, move on. But just so you know, the minimum standards. Also, stop at 100 cents, or $1. Again, feel free to move on if they're ready, but those minimum standards are just within 100 pennies, nickels, dimes, a collection of all 3. Also, your child needs to be able to talk about the relationships. Like for example, 2 dimes and a nickel is the same as 1 quarter, and all the different examples. Once your child masters all 3 of these, they've met the first grade minimum requirements and are ready for second grade for this skill. So, what can we do to help? If this was the regular school situation, there are three, we would kind of divide the unit into 3 weeks, and this is what we would teach each week. So the first week, what we would have the kiddos do is to sort coins. So if you just have a big old pile of coins, sort them. Then count within the groups. Now, of course, you see why we want them to sort them, because that's going to be getting them to identify. If your child is still confusing, you know, the nickels and the quarters, which realistically is hard, just stick with that skill for a while and just work on sorting. But once they're an expert at that, start to count within the like groups. Like maybe take a handful of only pennies and count them. This should of course be the easiest one because it's just regular counting, right? Then move on to the nickels and dimes, where they're going to have to flex those skip counting muscles. So again, you start out small. Just maybe grab 5 or 6 nickels and just have them touch and count by 5s. Same with dimes. Okay, so this would be week 1. If your child hasn't mastered this by the end of week 1, stick with this. Don't move on until they're ready, and that's okay. But again, counting like coins, okay? Think of this as week 2 or level 2 would be then to count groups where there is dimes and pennies. They're going to have to switch their skip counting. So, you know, if you 10, 20, 30, 40, and then you switch, right? 41, 42, 43. Start small. Don't grab a whole bunch of dimes and a whole bunch of pennies. You know, maybe start out with 2 or 3 dimes and 2 or 3 pennies so they can get used to that skip counting switch. Same with nickels. Again, it should look like 5, 10, 15, and then, 16, 17, 18, right? Seems easy for us. This is a doozy for them. Again, start small and get your kiddos in the habit of organizing their coins from from greatest to least in a really organized row. If they're all trying to kind of move their eyes and their fingers around, they're gonna lose track of what they counted, and they'll probably make an error. It's okay if you have to hang out here for a while. A lot of kids do, okay? So, then we move on to level 3. This is the real deal. This is where you're counting a collection of pennies, nickels, and dimes. Again, students have to be able to tell you what a quarter is and how much it's worth, but they don't have to count a collection. So again, hang out here as needed. Also, you can ask your teacher for any extra assistance. This is where these Zoom meetings are gonna be your best friend. Lots of exposure from the YouTube videos, from websites, and just real life. One thing that you do have in your corner is that students want to learn this. If you give them a pile of money, they're gonna be entertained for a while. They might not master it right away, but this is something they want to learn how to do. We just have to give them the right tools and present it in this very manageable steps so that we can help them become successful. Best of luck. You guys got this, and we're here if you need us.